to another awesome episode of Wedtalks. Today, I'm so excited to have my friend and owner of Cake House Design, Lyndsay O'Neil, on. You're not married yet, are you?
No.
Okay.
Forever engaged.
So it's still O'Neil.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll have a name change, but not yet.
Not for now.
Yeah. Lyndsay is uber talented, cake designer, owner. She has grown her business. I met her at an award show or something?
Yeah, what was it, like the PWG award show back in the day?
I don't even think that they have that anymore.
No.
But I remember you were just starting out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I left that. No joke, ask Robbie. And I was like, that girl's going to go far because you were so outgoing and were so sweet in talking to everybody and just mark my words. And now look at you.
Here I am.
I'm so proud of you. So tell me a little bit of your backstory for people who don't know.
Yeah.
Cake House. Honestly, it's like our number one referral for if someone asks me wedding cake, I'm referring you.
I think I was here every weekend in June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Wild.
We love it.
Great. So I started doing cakes when I was 13. My mom signed me up for cake decorating classes. Reluctantly, I did it. I was like, I'm going to be in class with old ladies. I don't want to do this, but I did it. And then I just started doing cakes out of my house, for friends and family. My dad is a chef. My mom was in catering and event planning her whole life. So it was in the blood. Yeah. But I always told people, literally since I could talk, I was going to be in the medical field. I want to be a nursing, doctor. I went back and forth. And that was the game plan forever. And I even went into college for that. Started doing my gen eds because I was going to go in nursing. But I worked at a bakery throughout high school and college. And the owners of the bakery at the time were kind of nearing towards the edge of not wanting to be in that field anymore. Mm-hmm. So one owner approached me and was like, hey, would you be interested in buying my half out, or my family? And I'm like, well, maybe. But then that was also the side of my college life where I was really hating reading and learning all of these.
You're creative.
Right. Well, also I was a straight A student and I didn't really have to try throughout school. And then I got to college and totally different story. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't think I like this anymore. And I loved my job and it was so fun. And then talked with my parents and pretty much the buyout of that bakery did not go as planned. And I'm so glad it went that way because my parents were like, hey, we believe that you could do this yourself and we want to watch you and help you do this on your own. And in September, we'll be open for 8 years.
Crazy.
So, yeah.
You are so young, though. I always forget how young you are.
Yeah, I opened when I was 21.
That's great.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So big 3-0 coming up.
Next July, I'll be 30.
But look how much you've accomplished in such a short period of time.
Yeah, it's really wild to see that. Well, we just expanded. We've been in our new space now for a year. We're in double the size that we started in, which is crazy.
Yeah. And they're located off of, what road is it?
Is it Baumgartner? So it's in South County area. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 20 minutes from downtown. We're so accessible to literally every wedding venue. Yeah. We're 25 minutes, 40 minutes max, pretty much everywhere, which is incredible.
Yeah, no, it's great. They have walk-in goodies and little classes for the kids and just definitely, even if you're not in the market for a wedding cake or wedding desserts, check Cake House out. My kids love it.
Just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, biggest fans.
Yeah.
But for today's purposes, we're really going to focus on weddings and cakes. And there are so many things that you don't know that go into cake design and the whole process. So I just kind of want to bring some of that to light because as vendors, we talk behind the scenes and we know what goes into all of this.
Oh, yeah.
But clients don't understand. And why would they?
No, it's usually their first wedding. And so they're a little unfamiliar with the process.
Yeah. So it's good. This is a great education tool for our clients and anybody considering desserts for their wedding day. So first off, just some generic business questions. Okay. This could help somebody who's watching this that maybe wants to get into cakes. What's the biggest thing you've learned since you've been open?
In general?
Just with business and weddings in specific.
Failure is okay. It sucks and it hurts so bad, but it's the biggest learning tool you'll ever have. There's no book for this. I always say I dropped out of college, so coming from a college dropout. It's not for everybody because there is no book for every instance that you're going to face. Mm-hmm. You go to school to be a doctor or lawyer for your, scripted things, but there's really no book or anything that tells you what to do when the 4-tier cake in your trunk falls over.
What do?
You re-ice it with the side of a cardboard box and you act like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, do you do most of your assembly on site?
Yes and no. It really just depends on the nature of the cake. And really, it depends on the venue. So we really take into consideration where our wedding cakes are going and the whole setup of the cake. People will be like, "Oh, how much is it to deliver a cake?" Well, that really depends on where I'm going and what your cake looks like and what the setup is, because I could deliver a fully assembled 3-tiered cake, downtown, because it's pretty much a straight shot for us. But coming here, I'd pretty much do all of my assembly on site. If we haven't been to a wedding venue, I go do a tour, or at least drive there so that I know what the route's like, because some things are just a little scary to do all assembled.
We've had some experiences with cakes.
Yeah, so I always like to check it out before we come here for the cake.
Yeah, because you're driving it up a big hill.
Yeah, I mean, I typically deliver with another person because I like somebody to hold the cake, because it's really important to watch your turns. And like if you're going up or down a hill, like you level it out with your legs. And so people don't really pay attention to that. Obviously, if it's in the back of your trunk, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. See, this is the stuff that people just have no idea.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's this much of a delivery fee. Like, I'll just go pick it up. Well, no, you can't go pick it up. Like, do not go pick up your wedding cake.
If you're coming to Westwood Hills, please don't pick up your cake.
I mean, maybe if it's like a sheet cake, I guess.
Yeah, you're okay there.
But, if it's multi-tiered, like, just don't pick it up.
Not a good idea. Let us help you.
So what are some things that couples should consider when they're designing or thinking of their wedding cake?
So I feel like traditionally everybody is always like white cake and some flowers. That's really great. And it is beautiful typically everywhere you go. And if you're set on that, go for it. Like that's just your simple, that's your preference. But there are so many things in your wedding design that we can include in the cake. Like at the end of the day, I always tell my clients, we want it to look like we communicated with every vendor in your team. Like we had a conversation with everybody and we knew exactly what they were doing, so that it doesn't just look like a white cake because that's just what you order for weddings. We want to know like the details of your dress, or is there any really cool patterns or florals? What are the details that we can make your cake look cohesive as one big story? And I don't think people think about that.
No, they don't. And people don't understand it. It is a huge part of your decor.
Yeah,
it's like a focal point.
It's an art piece.
It is. I mean, and I think scale matters in here.
Yes.
And I say that sensitively because I know not everybody has thousands of dollars to spend on a wedding cake, and that is okay. Like if it's not within your wheelhouse, there's other things you can do, which we'll talk about. Yeah. But I think scale really matters.
Yes.
In here, and like how you elevate it and where you place it.
Yeah.
Some people like that don't really prioritize their cake. They'll just kind of like stick it in the corner
Yep.
somewhere.
Yeah.
While others will put it on like full display in front of the ceremony window, which I have footage from our surprise wedding, which is probably one of my favorite cakes that you've ever designed.
It's so pretty.
And it was probably because our couple let us surprise them.
Yes, they put full trust into the pros.
Yes, so you had full like design creativity on that cake.
Ashley and I, like another vendor, like we communicated, like we had a full meeting and talked about that, which is cool.
Yes. So how do you know how big to make a cake? Like for actual portion sizes?
We base it off of, your guest count. And if you're solely wanting just cake or are you wanting dessert bar? My preference is both because you get the best of both worlds. Like parents are always traditional. You got to have the photo, you have to feed each other, and they have to have a slice of cake. We see that it's not a priority as much to a lot of people. Dessert bar is the fun stuff, like you don't always get at a party cake pops or brownies or cookies or you name it. And so when your guests come up to dessert bar, they don't even know what to do first because they have so many cool things in front of them. But you want an art piece and you want part of that in your wedding. So we will sometimes do both and we'll implement the faux tiers into the tiered cakes just to give that grand look, and you don't have to have that all cake. We can do a 5-tier cake with just that top tier that you cut in, and then your dessert bar is for your guests. So you get pretty and cool and everybody's happy.
Just make sure you know which one to cut in.
Yeah. You gotta know which one's real.
We had a client, or no, not a client, a friend, Corey and Hillary, if you're watching this, they cut into it.
Nice.
Into the foam.
Oh.
And they were too embarrassed.
No way. What a strong knife that they're cutting into the foam.
They ate the foam. They put it in their...
Get out. No
put
way.
it in their mouth. and like did the old napkin,
Oh,
spit it out because they
God.
didn't want anybody to know it was like fake.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh.
Hilarious. Well, now everybody knows, I guess.
Yeah, nobody knows. Check us out. Sorry, guys.
So what is the design process with you? And at what point in time should a client book your services?
So it kind of goes several ways depending on how adventurous or adamant you are. So some people come to us and be like, this is what I want. And we're not here to change your mind. Mm-hmm. We want to give you exactly what you want. But then we also have brides be like, I'm so open. I want something cohesive. We just gauge it on that first conversation solely, because if you're going to send me a white cake, like, that means you're pretty much set on what you want. And that's fine. We're still going to make it beautiful. We're not going to go through the whole design consult with me. So like my wedding coordinator handles a lot of that initial communication just to gauge where I need to step in. Mm-hmm. So if we do get a client that is open to ideas or really has a full design deck, I check out the design deck, I look at the mood board, and then I do a phone call with my client. And then I kind of talked about them, like, what do you want to see in the cake? And then my most important things I want to know is, what do you like and what don't you like? I feel like the what don't you like is more important than what you do like, because I am very, in my design process, I can get really wild and crazy. I hate boring and traditional. And so I like to follow a lot of bakeries and cake artists that are not in this country. That's who's setting the trends. And I want to bring that to you. I want you to be the first one to have this cake. Yeah. Why do you want a horizontal stripe cake that the last two weddings had? This is your wedding. Yeah. Let's make it your own. So I like to gauge that conversation and see what they like, what they don't like. And then I put together a Pinterest board that gives them visuals of like where I'm going to pull those ideas from. And then I start sketching.
Yeah. No, I love it. So what do you do if someone comes to you and they really do see a cake at Westwood Hills, like one of our clients, and they want the exact same cake?
We say, yes, that's fine. Like if you want that total cake. And then I also will make subtle suggestions on how we can make it their own. Mm-hmm. I don't replicate, because it's absolutely impossible to give every scenario exactly the same. Mm-hmm. But I always like to calmly or subtly recommend, like, are you open to anything that we can make it a little bit different? And you're always going to have something a little different.
Totally. And this is where it's so funny, because Lyndsay knows, like, I'm a basic bitch. Like, I like very clean, like traditional, like with a twist.
Yeah.
I do like a little bit of a twist, but I'm not like the crazy cakes. Like, it would freak me out if you were telling me about it. But then when I see it, yeah, I love it.
Like that bright yellow cake.
Yes. The bright yellow cake. Like if you would have told me that, I would have been like, ooh, okay, Lyndsay. And then when I see it every time, I'm like, oh my God. So sometimes it's good to just trust you.
It is. It's great to trust me. Yeah. I've been doing it for a little bit.
Yeah. Like you may think you know what you want, but I think giving creatives, just like with any vendor in your wedding, it allows them to do what they do the best way possible.
And they don't know what's possible. Like they're not decorating cakes. Like their Instagram feed is not the same as mine. Like I'm literally looking at the weirdest possible inspiration that you don't even know that really pertains to a cake, but I can see how that'll fit into a cake and how it would totally wow you and it would fit into your wedding. And you wouldn't expect that.
No. And like, I think I find something unique. I sent it to Lyndsay. She's like, nope, done that.
That cake that you sent me, I literally did that like 4 years ago.
I'm like, sorry, Linds. I thought it was cool. Okay. Oh my gosh. So funny. So what alternatives, say you don't have a huge budget for a dessert, what alternatives would you consider, or should our clients consider?
Dessert bar will always run on the higher end of your cake dessert bar budget, just because you're figuring, we always say 2.5 pieces per person. Mm-hmm. Just because you walk up to a dessert bar and you have 5 to 6 different options of desserts, you know you're going to pick more than one. So we say 2.5 is a really great suggestion. That half is a really good cushion to, your uncle who takes 5 pieces and maybe your grandma who takes 1. It eventually balances its way out. But if you're looking for something most economical, I hate that term, but that's just kind of what it is.
Yeah.
A tiered cake let's throw in the faux tiers to give you the grand, elegant look, just especially scale-wise. Maybe 1 or 2 tiers that you cut, and then sheet cakes in the back. And it also helps the caterers a lot with the sheet cakes in the back because they can literally work on cutting that the moment dinner service is over and it's ready to go. They don't have to disassemble a cake, and it's
your
a lot
guests
easier.
get to look at it longer.
All night long. It's part of the art in your wedding.
I think the sheet cakes in the back is genius. And I didn't know if you liked that or didn't like it, but I think like it also makes the cake look more proportionate because no matter what, when
it's
you're
a round or square cake, it's different.
100%. And then they can get started and you can leave that pretty cake out.
Yeah.
You know, it can
so
be
beautiful.
on display all night and people can get pictures by it. So I love that.
Me too.
So gosh, there's so many things I could talk about with you, but some people will say that or argue that wedding cake is a waste of money. What argument do you have on that?
Well, I don't like cake, so we'll start with that. Just blanket statement.
Crazy.
No, I don't eat any cake. I never have. So I'd be like, okay, I see that, but I think it's beautiful and it ties into your wedding, and like that's what I want you to see. And it's the one part of a tradition that you say, I had a cake, but just in the art form of it, it really just it adds to the cohesiveness, I think. Now, if it is a waste of money in your opinion, like you don't have to do that. Like there are so many other options. Like we've done wedding cakes, no cake, just dessert bar only. And there are so many different options. So we always say like, what are your favorites? Like we don't even start with, I say like what we do, like what are your favorite desserts? Like what are your favorite profile flavors? Like what do you like? And then we say, okay, based on what we do, this is what we can do in your realm, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I have like an interesting take on this because I maybe used to think before I got married that it was kind of a waste of money, but after owning the venue for several years now, I do think that if people don't have a cake, that there's disappointment.
Yes. Oh, dessert is an expected thing.
Yes. Like I think people come to weddings looking for, because you know, a lot of us do love cake.
Yes.
We look forward to trying the wedding cakes. And
Absolutely.
just because you don't like cake or maybe you don't value it doesn't mean that 70% of your guests don't value it. So I do think that there is an expectation there with weddings.
Absolutely.
And it's like part of tradition because that's all weddings are.
Yes.
Like when it comes down to it, it's tradition.
Part of it. I mean, you can be untraditional with your design, but tradition of having that part.
It is.
But also like just dessert in general. You don't have to have the cake if you don't want, but people are going to want some sort of dessert after the evening.
Give the people what they want.
Give them the sugar. That's what
I'm
they want.
saying. So who is responsible? We kind of touched on it, but who's responsible for cutting and cake and plating the cake?
So caterer always. We don't offer that service. It'd be literally ridiculous for us to just like hang out for your wedding and cut it. So your caterer will always do it and make sure that it is something that they include in their pricing. Like sometimes it's an additional fee. Some caterers literally will charge, say my dad said in his hotel life that they would charge per person to slice the cake. So if it's
I think that's pretty normal.
Yeah. So if it's still like that. So always the caterer. If not, please don't let your grandma or your mom do it because you will run out of cake.
Yeah.
It is a universal thing that caterers know, and like bakeries, like I tell you that this cake is going to feed 50 people. They also know that it's going to,
like you can't give them a slice that's this wide.
or like the triangle slices.
Yes.
Like
you have to cut them.
Yes. Yep. So it's a universal, it's a code that everybody kind of gets. But if you have a family member cut it, expect to run out immediately.
Yeah. Well, and we have had people like not like cheap out and want to do it. And when we were first open, we allowed that. And now we do require that the caterer does it because they were in the back and our back of house is very small and crowded and they were in the way and then it wasn't done right. And then, it's somehow the caterer's fault, even though they had nothing to do with it.
Absolutely.
Like the guests are upset because they didn't get a piece of cake. So just let the professionals handle it. Yep. So what design trends are you seeing for 2025 with cake design, desserts, and beyond?
I was actually talking to a photographer about this. So Europe is playing a huge part right now into cakes and desserts. And I'm really excited. I'm working on something in the fall. So I follow a lot of Italy and European bakeries. They're massive cakes, like literally fit the entire size of your cake table. And it's this like layered dessert with like fresh fruit, totally untraditional. Like it's not a 5-tier cake.
I've seen this.
It's just massive.
Yes.
It's like literally like 36 like inches round. Does that it? 3 feet? Yeah, whatever the dessert
Yeah.
table is.
Yep, 36 inches.
So that's huge. And I don't know, I would really love to do that.
That would be so cool.
That is really cool. But also texture is huge. It used to be the trend of everything was super clean and smooth, but texture is still taking over. And we are big fans of adding things that are not edible onto your cake, especially if you're going to do a faux tier, just different mediums. Like we did that one cake that had like that iridescent film on there. It was insane. Like you can't get that edible, but people, I mean, you don't need that.
Yeah.
But it's just gorgeous. It makes a huge pop. So texture and different mediums on cakes are really huge. And of course, like fresh florals, just implementing those.
Well, speaking of things not to put on cakes. So what, I'm trying to say this without getting myself in trouble. What do you see?
Just say it.
What do you see people doing that makes you cringe and that is dangerous?
Baby's breath and hydrangea.
Why?
On cakes.
Why is that dangerous?
They're toxic flowers. Absolutely toxic flowers. Like if you literally Googled the top 2 flowers to not put on cakes, it's going to be baby's breath and hydrangeas.
So it can make the guests sick?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we see it all the time.
Oh, I saw it a couple months ago and I was like, ugh.
I know you messaged me.
I'm scared. Well, yes, somebody might not get sick. I don't want to be that 0.1% that somebody does get sick and I'm the one who did it.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably not going to get sick, but still.
But I don't know. It kind of freaks me out.
Yeah. Well, now you all know.
But also like a lot of florists, like they don't know that part, right? Like they're just doing florals and this is beautiful and it's in the wedding. So they're going to incorporate it. They don't know the food part of the flowers because like that's kind of like where their knowledge stops. But also it's kind of like some bakeries don't understand that. Like they don't think the flowers are their issue. And then it becomes a weird controversy of who puts on the flowers.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Who puts the flowers on the wedding cake? Is it you or the florist?
In my contract, it's always me. I want to be the very first and last person to touch your cake.
So do you tell the client like, hey, you need to get X amount of blooms for this cake?
So in our contract, you have to let us know who your florist is. And if we know who it is, they know. Like I always, I'll send a text to Ashley, hey, we have a cake coming up. This is what it looks like. She's going to give me a bucket of flowers. So we have a really great relationship with the majority of florists in St. Louis. So they kind of know what to expect when we are working with them. But we'll always have a conversation or give a phone call to the florist. We just kind of take that out of the client's hand. They don't have to do that wedding planning part, And I'll say, hey, we have a cake. It's a 5-tier. I'm going to send you over my sketch. I need you to allot this amount of flowers for me.
Because it is like your art. It's your design.
Right.
So if a florist puts the flowers on the cake in a totally different way than you're envisioning or that you previously discussed with the client, then it's like your fault.
Oh, I've been in tears. My very first 2 years, I had a wedding at Marriott Grand and I almost got in an argument with the florist and I had to like restrain myself. I'm like, okay, you can't do this. But they would not let me put the flowers on my cake. And they destroyed my cake. 100% destroyed my cake. And I'm sitting here with the sketch in my hand and I'm like, this is nothing. Like,
so what'd you do?
I couldn't do anything.
Did you tell the client after the fact?
I emailed them and I just said, hey, and I didn't want it to be a reflection on the florist, but I wanted to let them know that I tried everything in my power to give them exactly what they wanted. And it was even worse because the photo that they gave me was a cake that I had done in the past and they loved my floral placement. And so that's what they wanted again. And so then this florist was adamant on taking care of it. And I was just like, I'm so sorry to disappoint, but I never got a response back, and I still think of it to this day. So there's that.
Well, again, you can't win them all.
Nope. So now we try to be like super official and be like, who's your florist? You have to, sign off that like we are the ones doing it. And
this is also like what people are paying for. We always talk about, when people book the venue, the amount of things we're doing when they ask what's included in that venue rental fee.
Yeah.
Well, the cake is not just for the cake.
No.
It's for all of these emails. It's for you calling the florist. You probably call them again and confirm with them the week of their wedding. Like it's all of your time communicating with people to make sure that it's exactly what the couple wants.
And putting florals on a cake, like that's part of our delivery and setup. Like I've spent an hour literally just putting flowers on a cake.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the art.
It's strategic.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I love that you do that. What mistakes do you see people making in regards to the florist component?
Well,
like what can a couple do to ensure that this doesn't happen?
communicating with your florist. Like I've showed up and florists have not given us flowers after I've had conversations, and it's my dad's favorite thing to do when he delivers wedding with me and go and pick from the arrangements. And I say, all right, Dad, here. I mean, literally his eyes light up like you just gave him a whole bunch of puppies or something. Like he gets so excited to go, just like start snipping from all the arrangements.
Oh my God, the florist probably would want to kill you.
Right. But you know what? They should have gave me flowers.
For sure. So, especially if it was like in the contract and you confirmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just making sure that you obviously have that conversation with them. And I ask, like, what flowers are you going to give me? I've literally had florists give me a bucket of baby's breath and roses. And I have had to start taking the flowers with me that I don't use, because I've had florists go behind my back when I leave to add more flowers onto my cake. And that's almost more infuriating than anything.
So it seems like there is like a communication gap on like what's supposed to happen with the florist and the cakes.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know, like, but there are some bakeries that refuse to put flowers on cakes. So, and everybody is different.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody has the owner going to deliver their wedding cake.
Right.
Not everybody has a trained person to go do that. They're just really have a delivery guy that just drops off the cake and that's it.
Right. Like they wouldn't be able to put
they
flowers placed. Yeah.
So we try to go through that extra step to have somebody who knows what they're doing to deliver and set up at all times.
Yeah. Well, again, you pay for what you get.
You do.
This is why there is a fee. So what is one piece of advice you would give to someone starting a cake business?
Oh my gosh.
I know you said like earlier on in the conversation about like not worrying about making mistakes. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it literally happens. It's the best way of how you learn. Like you're in the heat of the moment. You're in real life situations. Nothing's going to prepare you for that. In the wedding part of starting your cake business, I would say make sure you start making relationships really early on into the game. Like that was one thing that was super important to me and still is. It's so important to me. Even now I pass that along to my staff, is making sure you're going to introduce yourself to this wedding planner that you've never met, to the venue owner if you're there. Like I want to know who's in charge of everything, because having friends in this industry is everything.
For sure.
You have to take care of each other, and it makes your job so much easier that I can just text somebody and be like, hey, we're running a few minutes late. But you know, like we've worked together, so you know I'm going to be there, right? Just creating that strong relationship and building that trust between each other is really, really important.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think couples understand the value of working with vendors that all work with each other.
Oh yeah.
Like every weekend.
That real like release of like when I talk to a client, I'm like, oh, I'll text the florist and let them know. I'm like, we work with them all the time. They're like, oh, really? Like that almost like release of stress that you hear in that conversation is crazy. And I've heard it so many times, like, oh, they've worked together. This is going to be good.
Yeah.
It's the best. I think
really
it's
is.
really cool. Like, oh wow, this is going to go really well, because we're honestly just a bunch of friends throwing a party.
Yes.
And that's just what it is.
Yeah, no.
We get to work together with our friends.
We love working with people we know, and we love working with you guys. And I think, you know, one of the big things, aside from how amazing everything is and how pretty it is that in the beginning you really did like make sure that you spoke with us. You brought us treats. Like it's like those little things. And I'm not saying you have to do that every time, but it is like even a little card for people. It's just so impactful. And I think like this generation, not to be mean, you're only a little bit younger than me, but you are like,
I'm a little different.
You're a little different. This generation though, like that touch point is gone.
Yeah.
And that's because of technology and all of these things. So I think like creating those little personal touch points is huge.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Well, anything else you want to end with, Lyndsay?
Oh man. Honestly, just brides to not be afraid of color. Like I know that's like sounds like so silly and cliche, but while yes, your wedding cake traditionally is always white, like open your mind a little bit more to the possibilities that you don't know what's out there.
Yeah.
I know that's so weird to sound like you don't know what's out there. You don't understand the possibilities, but your mind could be blown if you trust your professionals that you're getting ready to hire.
Yeah, for sure. And color doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be scary.
It doesn't have to be. It can be muted. Yeah. You can still get the same vibes.
People think it could be tacky, which yes, it could be tacky in the wrong way, but also it can be bold and like glamorous
Yeah.
and just elegant. So there's we brought so much color to that photo shoot, hot pink cake.
Yes,
and
it
all
was
kinds
so
of fun
cute.
stuff.
Yes, we'll post all the pics throughout this talk. Well, thanks, Lyndsay.
Yeah,
we look
thanks for
forward to
having
working with you, and let's get somebody to do that really cool
that
Italian.
big cake. I'm ready.
If you're out there and you want to do something unique, call Cake House.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll see you next time.